Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another episode of On the Move at the Caravan Sports Preview Show with Jim Powers. I'm Chris Miller. That's Jim Powers. This episode, as always, is brought to you by Wiley Agencies. If you need multiple policies for your insurance, for your car, for your house, for your motorcycle, whatever you got, you can call one guy. His name is Sean Wiley. He will hook you up. You can call his Festus office at 636-764-6294. His Hillsborough office at 636-333-9903, and he will hook you up with Allstate. Jim, how are we doing today?
Doing fantastic. Fall is here. Let's just say it. We are going to have a true football weekend. Weather's in the 60s. Maybe a little nip in the air on Saturday for some of those games. But, yeah, this is what it's all about. It's hard to believe. We're in week 7. There's only 3 weeks left of the regular season, and then all the shenanigans start with district action coming up.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where football weather, when you're thinking about college football, you're thinking about pro football, you're always thinking about cold weather. And a lot of the high school season is played when it's warm, so you don't get to see all those cold weather games as much, especially here in Missouri, where it seems like our summers last up until November 5th. So yes, I'm excited about it, and I'm really hoping that we have that low of 39 on Saturday myself. I love wearing the hoodies and the pullovers. As you can see, I have one on right now. That's my jam right there. But yes, for football, big time weather for football, perfect for football, and I think we're gonna have a great weekend of football coming up.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And, a lot of teams jockeying for position in conference play. A lot of teams, looking for district. I mean, you're looking at, and once again, I always say this. Coaches like, yeah, we're not looking at districts. We, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, okay, coach speak, which we both know very well.
Yes.
But, they're all looking at it. And they know what they need to do. And, I mean, it's just a fun time of the year. There's some big games. Still some conference titles to be contested for. And this is what it's all about. This is what the kids have been working hard on since, June, July through the summer workouts and all that stuff. This is the time of the year where it's, put up or shut up.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. I mean, especially with all the hard work, it's starting to pay off, and now you're seeing the cream rise to the top. And we'll go ahead and look at last week's previewed matchups that we had talked about. And we had Russellville. They took a beating from Crystal City 42-8. Festus defeated North County 42-14. Valley Catholic continues to roll on as they defeated Park Hill Central 48-34. MICDS fell to the number 1 team in Class 4, Lutheran North, 46-21. DeSmet continues to do DeSmet things as they beat SLU High 42-13. And Kirkwood taking the big win in our featured matchup game over Marquette, 38-21. So, Jim, let's recap these just a little bit.
Well, Crystal City, this was the revenge game for them. Russellville beat them last year on the last play of the game. So a nice win for the Hornets. And once again, they're getting votes in the Class 1 poll. Festus, great bounce back. We know North County's down a little bit this year. But, Festus, this was a must-win for them because they're still chasing, that team 7 miles away from them, in Hillsborough for district. And then Valley Catholic, once again, they haven't looked back since losing to Seckman in week 1. They're just playing well. Park Hill Central fell out of the poll this week. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But, they're really depleted right now. The injury bug has hit them something fierce over the last 3 weeks. Lutheran North, they go to Maryville. We're going to talk about that game. But this is the week for them to basically prove to everybody what I've been saying since they knocked off Blair Oaks and they've knocked off Hal, that they're the best team in Class 4. You go to Maryville, you knock off the Spoof Hounds, who is a traditional power when it comes to Class
3.
Class 3, this is the make or break game for them, to keep there. The Smet, like you said, they're just doing what they do, and that's win games. And I was at that game. It was a lot of fun. It was a tight game. It was 14-7 at the half. And the Smet came out 2 long drives in the third quarter, pretty much put that away. They are the number 2 team in the state in Class 6. I know Liberty North is just ahead of them. It's not by much, but I'm telling you right now, the Smet and Lee Summit North, if everything shakes out, they're on a collision course for Faroe Field the first Saturday in November. And then Kirkwood, what about them? They haven't lost since they lost to the Smet in week 1. And they've been doing it defensively. And they are just putting up some unbelievable numbers defensively right now. And, they're on the outside looking in Class 6. You kind of wrote them off early. You can't write them off now. They are a legit team that is going to make a lot of noise. Jeremy Macklin has that defense playing at a high level. They solidified their quarterback position. And this is where they need to continue doing what they do, and that's win football games. And they beat a really, really good Marquette team.
Yeah, they did. And then we've talked about Marquette. We've talked about them, Summit, Kirkwood, and it's kind of like 3 of those teams that have been kind of jockeying to try to get into that traditional mix there in Class 6. And Kirkwood is definitely turning some heads right now. We said it last week. You just couldn't sleep on them. We thought that the defenses would be the ones to show up, but it turns out the offenses did have a little say in the game, with Kirkwood getting 38 points. But yeah, I'm telling you right now, I like what Kirkwood's doing. I think Coach Macklin's got it going, and they're going to be a tough out when it comes down to district play.
Yeah, without a doubt. And once again, they're in that Class 6 District 2. Here we go. I mean, and everybody is playing at such a high level in that district right now. When you see a CBC team as a number 4 seed, come on now, really? You just look at how that thing is shaken out, and it's going to be really, really interesting to see how the next 3 weeks play out, because especially in that district, everybody's jockeying for position. You got Lafayette Eureka this week. Lafayette's number 1 in that district right now. If they win, I'm telling you, they may put a stranglehold on the number 1 seed, and then all roads are going to have to go through Lafayette. You've got a Howell team that's battling. Kirkwood's playing well. Marquette, they've got to stack up some wins here so that they can at least be in a conversation to host. Because right now, they're not in that conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what you got to do. I mean, you have to win those games. You have to get those points. And you said it. We all know the coaches, and they say they're not worried about that. You're darn right they're worried about it. They should be, because if they want that home field advantage, they want that student section, they want those fans there, they want to host the football game. You don't want to get on a bus and drive anywhere. You want to play in your own backyard.
Yeah, without a doubt, and especially the way that everything is set up now. You want to host as many games as you can, in front of your home crowd, in front of your students, and you don't want to worry about getting on a bus and all that kind of rigmarole that you're going to have to do. So, yeah, hosting is a big, big deal when you get into districts, especially if you're that 1 seed, you're hosting the whole way. And you look at the other district in Class 6, Seckman's the number 1 team. Jackson's just behind them. Now, where would you rather play? Seckman would rather play at home.
Yeah.
Seckman would rather play Jackson at home instead of having to go down to the pit and play in one of the craziest places to play a football game. And I mean, once again, and that's where it all comes about. You want to make sure you're taking care of your business, and you can host and be able to have the road for a district title come through your place.
Absolutely. And then we'll talk about some of those top teams in Class 6, because we're going to take a look here at the polls that just came out. And Jim, let's get a little rundown of these.
Yeah, once again, not a lot of moving and shaking. When you come to it, Lee Summit North, yep, they're the number 1 team. Liberty North, the Smet chipping into that thing a little bit, and I voted for the Smet number 2. But there's still, a lot of people that think Liberty North is very good, and they are very good. Rockhurst and Nix are tied for 4th. Rockhurst with a 23-point come from behind victory last week. So they kind of, put themselves into the shuffle for the top 4. CBC with a nice win on the road down in Tennessee. They stayed pat. Oak Park stays packed. Jackson stays where they're at. And then there was a little switch, little talk in the bottom of that with Lee Summit West and Seckman. And that's so, but, Class 6, not a lot of movement, but you got some teams on the outside looking in. And Kirkwood is one of those teams that you've got to put on a bubble right now because they're playing at a great level. And if somebody at the bottom of that list slips up, you can see Kirkwood making their way in.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing about Class 6. It seems like it's a very tough club. Some of these polls are very tough to get into because the teams ahead are really good. When they added those teams to Class 6, it made Class 6 one of the toughest classes in the state, even to be ranked. And you can see that with the teams that are in there. I mean, you have CBC at 6. I mean, CBC is probably better than that, but hey, you lost 2 games, and that's just how it goes. They might be 6th in the polls, and they might not even host a game in their district. That's the craziest thing.
Yeah, it's nuts, but it is the way it is right now. And,
right.
And once again, CBC loses to 2 phenomenal teams.
Yes.
And that's just the way it shook out, and that's the way the point system is. And now you've got to win. You've got to stack up some W's and keep things going if you want to host. And that's the situation that CBC is in right now.
Right. And then we'll look at Class 5. And the thing is, we said Class 5 was the tough one last year. It's still pretty darn good, don't you think so, Jim?
Oh, without a doubt. And you look at the teams. I mean, Ritter is just doing Ritter things. Webb City continues to win. Green Valley, Helias, Lebanon. And then you saw the shakeup, MICDS losing. So basically, Summit and MICDS flip-flop. The 6 and 8 spot, Republic stays where they're at. Eureka kind of distanced themselves a little bit for the number 9 slot over a very good Platte County team. So, once again, not a lot of movement there, but you also got teams like St. Dominic who's starting to nose their way into that conversation, and they've quietly gone 6-0 on the year, and they're a really, really good team. And Thomas Pulliam has been terrific at running back. Their defense has been phenomenal. So I'm telling you, once again, somebody slips up at the bottom of that list, we'll see another local team in St. Dominic making their way in.
Yeah, I was really surprised that St. Dom didn't end up at least at 10. That's just me. I don't know how many points they got, but I know that they're right there, especially at 6-0. So that tells you what everybody thinks of Platte County around the state, and Eureka as well. Especially when you lose back-to-back games like Eureka did, and they're still sticking around. They're still a pretty good team, but St. Dom being 6-0, I mean, that's a lot of people would say that maybe they should be getting the nod over one of those 2 teams.
The only problem right now, and I'll tell you where I got St. Dom on the outside looking in because of their schedule.
Yeah.
Platte County's schedule is just ridiculous. They play a ton of Class 6 schools. They're playing a lot of the top dogs out on the western part of the state, and we know what Eureka's schedule is all about. And that's just the way it is. You got to take that scheduling component into consideration when you're talking about that. But I'm telling you, Eureka with a tough game this week that we're going to talk about. Platte County's got a tough one out on the western side of the state. Don't be surprised if you see St. Dom sneak their way in.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope so. I hope they do, because again, I like to pull for the local teams myself. Again, I guess I'm a homer like that. But then we'll look at Class 4, and you know what, Jim? It finally came to fruition because Lutheran North finally got all the votes for the number 1 spot. I guess it only took what, 6 weeks for this to happen, but they got it.
Yeah, finally somebody heard me out of the way. Well, basically, I put in our Google Docs, I'm like, guys, Smithville is good. Lutheran North's number 1 without any doubt. And finally the vote switched. Finally. But once again, Lutheran North has a battle this week. They got Maryville. They've got the Spooks. And that's going to be a big game for them. Smithville is a really good team. And then Hillsboro just doing what they do, and that's winning football games right now. Warrenton, everybody kind of stayed pat there. Warrenton moves up a spot. And I'm telling you, this Warrenton team is really, really good. They're going to win their side of the GAC. They're going to do terrific things. And, it's going to be fun to watch them play, especially in districts where they're going to have some opportunity. But they're a team that you've got to watch. And then you look at some of the other teams. Festus just on the outside looking in. There, and once again, somebody slips up at the bottom of that list. Festus could find themselves right back in the top 10.
Yeah. And we know Savannah's had a pretty good run as well as far as football is concerned. So it's good to see them getting in because that's well deserved. 5-1 on the season. Warrenton's one that I kind of want to just keep an eye on and see. They talk about that 6-0 and seeing if they can make it up to 7 and how far they can go. But some really good football, especially in that area right now.
No, without a doubt. And once again, the bottom of that list, there's some really, really good teams. Hannibal is very good. They're very talented. Nevada, 6-0. They're playing some great football, and they're playing some pretty good teams down in the southwestern part of the state. Pleasant Hill, they're always good, and they always can come up and get you. So once again, there's just not a lot of wiggle room for these teams. You lose, there's teams on the outside looking in that could sneak in there and get your spot. So winning right now is at a premium across the board.
Yeah, there's no time off. There's no days off. There's no, the easy games or whatever, you still got to get those points. The points are the most important thing. And when you're putting together the schedule as an athletic director, as a football coach, these games right now, this home stretch is so important that you're racking up wins and you're getting the points so that we have the chance to host, as we've talked about.
Yeah, without a doubt. And that's exactly what you want to do. And I know a lot of coaches will say, yeah, we don't care about the top 10 poll. Yeah, we all know that. Coach speak once again. Coach speak. They're all looking at that.
Sure they are, because it does give it gives your program that recognition. And sometimes when you start recognizing that program, that will get your kids recognized and get them opportunities, because people will see those things that are put out there about your team being ranked. It gets, again, more eyes on your kids, gets them the opportunities down the road. And that's what we all want as coaches. I would say the majority of us coaches do not like the limelight when it comes to those things. We would rather the kids be recognized. Great. If we're ranked, great, but it's the kids who did it. I always say the kids take the wins and I take the losses. That's how I like to look at it. So they get that recognition, and I'll be the one who takes the thumping when we lose. So
no, without a doubt. And yeah, it's great. It's it's motivation for the kids, but it also puts that bullseye on your back. And that's it's a double-edged sword. But yeah, exactly.
Well, it does give us stuff to talk about for like the last, almost 20 minutes or so. But that's part of it. That's part of this show.
Right.
And we're going to go ahead and take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to start in our preview matchups. And you are watching On the Move with the Caravan Sports Preview Show with Jim Powers. We'll be right back.
I'm the captain of the Pee Wee football team. We may be small, but we are
mighty,
annoying. And you are so tired from playing defense against us that your focus is about to ride the bench. Woo! Go. Thanks, Mom.
Bye.
Come on. And if you have cut rate car insurance, then not even a Hail Mary will save you from paying for this. So get Allstate and be better protected from mayhem, like me.
Mayhem is everywhere. Are you in good hands?
Are you tired of boring sports talk shows? Then tune in to the Coach's Box. These guys don't just talk sports. They talk about whatever the heck they want to talk about. Watch new episodes of the Coach's Box each week for free on Facebook, YouTube, or the Streamline Sports app.
And it ends abruptly, but hey, welcome back to On the Move with the Caravan Sports Preview Show with Jim Powers. I'm Chris Miller with Jim Powers as always. Don't forget, this episode is brought to you by Wiley Agencies. You can get multiple policies with one agent for your car, for your truck, your motorcycle, your home, whatever. You call Sean Wiley, he'll hook you up at his Festus office, 636-764-6294. It's the Hillsborough office at 636-333-9903. And you can get get some help with your insurance, but you can talk sports, man. Wiley will sit there and talk sports with you all day long, especially baseball. He is a huge baseball fan. So just right now, don't mention the Cardinals. That's why I will tell you this from talking to Sean. Don't talk about them. But we'll talk about some better things right now, Jim. I always say you always pick some really good matchups, and let's see if this week holds true on that expectation level. Just so I don't want to put any pressure on you here.
It's not easy. Trust me, it's not easy week in and week out because there's so many great games. Who can you talk about? Who do you want to talk about? I mean, yeah, once again, week 7 is not going to disappoint. A lot of great games around the area. On both sides of the river, actually, so it'll be interesting to see some of what happens this weekend. Once again, you got to win, you got to keep moving forward, and you got to start racking up points.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll go ahead and jump right into it. And our first matchup features a couple of struggling teams by record as Herculaneum travels north to take on I-55 conference opponent Bayless. Herculaneum comes into this matchup with a 1-5 record after dropping a tough game to Grandview last week, 21-18. Sophomore quarterback Keaton Reeves made his first start at QB last week, and despite a passing and rushing touchdown each, 3 interceptions were difficult for the Black Cats to overcome. Their opponent Bayless is winless so far this season after losing last week to St. Vincent 58-12. The Broncos defense has struggled to keep opponents out of the end zone, giving up 57.4 points per game to their opponents this season. Last year, Herky won this game 44-6. Now, Jim, this is an interesting pick because usually we have some teams that have some really good records. So I want to hear your thoughts on this matchup and why you picked it.
Well, once again, this is a pick game just because you've got two teams that are trying to right the ship a little bit. They're evenly balanced, I think, both offensively, defensively. But Herky, they've got some things going on. They went with the new quarterback last week, and I think that's good. Let the young man grow here in the back part of the season. But, also for these two teams, you want to get that W because that's going to help you in district seeding. You don't want to be in that bottom spot in district. You have to play either the 1 seed or the 2 seed. You want to make sure you can get out of that situation. So, I like Herky in this game. Bayless, they're trying to get things going the right way. Once again, they're building a program over there. And that's what they're going to take their lumps. We all know that. But the bottom line is I think Herky gets the W in this one. And kind of gets the ship going because they've got a couple winnable games here in the back part of the season as well.
Yeah. And, Bayless is, again, I can't say this enough. It's really hard to come in there with no football history, no tradition. They've played soccer. Bayless is known for having some pretty good soccer teams. Yeah, I know. I said it. That's my soccer throwout.
Oh,
calm down. Gosh. Anyway, I don't know anything about soccer. I just know that Bayless plays a lot of soccer and has. But the tradition there has not been in football, and you're trying to build something new and to get stuff going. And it will take some time, but there's little things that they can hang on to that's positives to keep building and building and building. I'm with you. I like Herky in this one. I think you want to, when you're in this situation when you're losing, you want to go ahead, and if you have the opportunity to get the younger kids in there that you think are going to be good in the future, go ahead and let them have that playing time.
Yeah, without a doubt. And that's what you need to do right now. Let those kids get the reps. Let them get film. That way you can kind of watch in the winter and in the spring what these kids are doing, what they need to work on. So, no, I love going to the sophomore quarterback for Herky. That way he's going to get reps. And these are valuable reps. Let's just put it out there. This is going to help him grow into that quarterback position because, honestly, he's the future for this Herculaneum offense. And I think getting him reps now is going to go a long way in his development moving forward over the next couple years.
I 1,000% agree. Our next matchup, it's going to feature, hey, my hometowners here, but features an I-55 matchup of private schools as St. Pius X travels to Perry County to take on St. Vincent. St. Pius moved to 5-1 after winning last week against Cuba 55-6. Junior running back Justin Lane had a huge day for the Lancers as he rushed for a career-high 238 yards and notched 4 touchdowns in the win. St. Vincent brought their record back to 500 as Jim has his phone going off, I think, with their Week 6 win over Bayless, as mentioned before. In their 3 wins, the Indians' offense is averaging 49 points per game, but in their 3 losses, the offense is only getting 10.6 points per game. Last year, St. Vincent clinched the I-55 conference title with a 21-6 win against St. Pius X. With Jefferson and St. Vincent both undefeated, this game has huge implications on a conference title for St. Vincent or the slight chance of a 3-way title split for St. Pius. So, Jim, what's your thoughts on this one?
This should be Pius on paper all day long. And, once again, a lot on the line for this. Pius is playing really well. They're doing terrific things. Unfortunately, they got that loss, but once again, it's going to kind of refocus them. And that's what you need to do. And I still like this team. I love what they're doing offensively. Coach Ray has those kids flying around defensively. For St. Vincent, they've got to figure out a way to stop the air attack. That Pius is going to throw at him, and I don't think St. Vincent can. This is a game this is a must-win for them on a lot of levels. I really like Pius right now. I think they're playing at a terrific level, and once again, they're playing for they've got to stay in that 2 slot. Because you may see the rematch with them in R7, in the district championship if you can continue to stack up some wins.
Yeah, and when you want to play, you want to try to host a game either way that you look at this, because you have some really tough teams in your district. I will say this: I think that what Pius is doing with 9 freshmen starting on your football team in varsity. I mean, I will say this: the JV went and played at Farmington against Poplar Bluff and won 48-6. So the future looks very bright for St. Pius. Right now, the future still looks pretty bright because they are winning. It was a bad game for them against R7. This game is always a knockdown drag out because these 2 teams always play each other tough. And I don't care what you say, and I will say it because Coach Valroy, if he ever watches this, he understands there's a lot of laundry that ends up on the field down at St. Vincent when you play. There seems like there's a lot of laundry that ends up in the gym when you play down there too, but I digress. That's going to be a tough thing because when you have a young team that's not used to the game being called, the game is called differently down south than it is here.
Yeah.
But being able to adjust how you're playing and not get those penalties to where you're taking 1 step forward and 2 steps back. That's the kind of game that if it gets to that point where St. Pius is having a hard time either stopping St. Vincent's offense or the defense is in struggling that way, or the offense can't move down the field, this could turn into a lot closer game than people think.
Yeah, without a doubt. And you've got to adjust. And once again, we all know, and we're not disrespecting anybody, but you're right. The game is called a little bit differently down in the, the SEMO area and all that. And you have to adapt. You have to adjust. And you just got to tell your kids, hey, if a flag goes, okay, great. We just next play. You've got to go to the next play and not worry about it. But I like Pius in this game. And honestly, if they can do the things that they've been doing, I think Pius wins in a blowout. I think this game gets out of hand pretty quick on the side of Pius.
Yeah, and personally, I'd like to see that because that was it was a good game last year, but having that opportunity to continue moving forward, and then now you turn around. For somebody like me is rooting for St. Vincent to beat Jefferson, but I would like to see the rematch at the end of the year between St. Pius and Jefferson at that point, because I think those kids are only getting better, and Coach Ray does a fantastic job.
Yep.
And with everything that they're doing, because they can win either running it or they can throw it. James Smith is a great quarterback. He doesn't care if he's throwing it 50 times or he's only throwing it 5. That's the kind of kid that you want leading your team.
No doubt about it. And he's done a great job in leading this team. So once again, Pius big, end of story.
Moving on.
Next game, please.
I know I could go on all day about these guys. All right, sorry. I know. I'm trying not to be, but I just like what they do. All right, so our next highlighted game features the state-ranked Eureka Wildcats visiting the Lancers of Lafayette. At 4-2 on the season, Eureka showed why they are ranked 9th in Class 5 last week as they shut out Pattonville 34-0. The Wildcat defense forced 3 interceptions, with 2 of those made by senior defensive back Alan Brown. Brown also had 5 receptions for 50 yards because he plays wide receiver and a score as well. They will take on a Lafayette team that, as you mentioned before, is pretty darn good, and they've reeled off 5 straight wins after losing to Marquette in week 1. In last week's win over Ladue 34-16, junior quarterback Jack Bell, and I hope I say that right, had another outstanding game as he threw for 332 yards and 4 touchdowns. Last season, Lafayette took down Eureka on the road 20-13, but Jim, hey, how good of a game do you think this one's going to be?
Hey, the Battle of 109. That's enough said right there. I mean, once again, 4.5 miles separate these two schools. The kids all know each other. The communities know each other. This is just going to be a typical Eureka Lafayette game. And this year, there's a lot on the line for both of these teams. Eureka, a loss is really going to hurt them district-wise, and it's probably going to drop them out of the top 10. A win for Lafayette is going to solidify that top slot in that brutal Class 6 District 2. And you want to keep that. You want that district to have to go through your school,
right,
and play all your games in your home stadium. And right now, Lafayette's in the catbird seat, so they've got a lot to play for. And they're playing extremely well. This is one of Boyd Manning's better teams that we've seen over the last couple of years, and he's just a great coach. And I still say that you look at the coaches in the Rockwood School District. Between, Coach Manny, you've got Eric Stewart, you got Michael Stewart, you've got Eureka's coach, Coach Sumner. I mean, it's just awesome to see the coaching that these kids are getting. And there's not an easy out with any of those games for any of those Rockwood schools. This is going to come down to the last quarter. This will be, smash mouth football at its utmost and finest. The big boys up front are going to be the key. You've got to create some space to run the ball. You've got 2 very good quarterbacks. You got Eureka that's thrown the wrinkle in, thrown the ball a little bit more this year. But I'm telling you, there's something that's telling me that Lafayette is going to get this W.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to have to pick Lafayette. I mean, I was riding the Eureka train last year. I think Lafayette is doing some really, really good things, and they're proving right now why they're one of the best teams in the area for sure. And the win is going to be extremely important as far as districts are concerned, as you said, but a loss for Eureka would be absolutely devastating.
Yeah, without a doubt, and on a lot of levels. And we mentioned that. They're in a tough district in Class 5. And once again, if you have to eat that third loss, you're going to struggle to get a home game in districts. So, there's a lot on the line, not only just the bragging rights and the rivalry, for Route 109, but there's a lot of district implications, a lot of, different things that you've got to look at. But once again, there's something telling me this is Lafayette's year to be able to do what they want to do. And especially with them knowing they get a couple more wins, Class 6 District 2 is going to go through Lafayette.
Yeah, and that's what you're playing for. You want that opportunity because that puts you in a good driver's seat as far as winning a district title and then getting in the state playoffs. So we'll go ahead and jump into our next matchup, and this is an interesting one, Jim, because it's a Mississippi White Conference matchup, but more importantly, town bragging rights as Valley Catholic travels down 4th Street to Washington to 5th Street to take on St. Genevieve. Talk about being that close. Yes, they are, because they're in the same town. Despite the final score being 48-34, Valley cruised to a win last week over a beat-up Park Hills team behind senior quarterback Grant Fowler, who rushed for 253 yards and tied a school record with 6 total touchdowns. With the win, the Warriors moved to 5-1 on the season and are currently ranked 4th in Class 2. They will take on a St. Genevieve team that were stunned last week, and they beat Park Hill Central the week before last after losing to conference rival Potosi last week 29-28. Despite a solid performance from sophomore quarterback Luke Ferranto, in which he threw for 199 yards and a touchdown, rushed for 103 yards and 2 more touchdowns, the Dragons had a game-winning field goal blocked by the Trojans as time expired to secure the win for Potosi. Valley has won the last 5 matchups to St. Genevieve, including winning big last season, 63-7. So, Jim, the town bragging rights, basically it takes 11 minutes to walk between the schools. If you wanted to go that route, who's taking the win on this one?
Valley should. And once again, they learned a lot about themselves after that week 1 loss to Seckman, and they haven't looked back. and I don't think they're going to look back here. St. John is having a really good year. They put themselves on the radar earlier this year with a couple nice victories. The losses now, last week, Potosi's okay. They're not world beaters. St. John should have never lost that game. So
No.
it put them into a little bit of a bad situation district-wise. But once again, small-town rivalry, just a fun game for the two schools. But I'm telling you right now, Valley being back in Class 2, making a statement that, guess what? Title number 15 may be coming sooner than you think. Now, obviously, you're going to get the 1 seed. You got to do what you got to do. Thank goodness you don't have to play Lamar until the state championship game. But I'm telling you right now, this Valley Catholic team is built to play in the state championship. They just continue doing what they do. They're playing great defense right now. Their offense is hitting it on all cylinders. They should win handily. But you know what, though? These small-town rivalry games, take the records, throw them out the window. You got to show up and play. And that's what Valley needs to do. And that's what their coaching staff does such a great job in keeping those kids laser focused. They've been doing it for years, and they're going to continue to do that. Judd and his guys, they are some of the best coaches in the state of Missouri, and they just continue to do the right things and pushing the right buttons and making the right decisions. Valley wins big in this one.
I kind of think they're going to. When I saw how the games were going to be, the after St. Genevieve defeated Park Hills Central, and I know it was a beat up Park Hills Central team the week before last, I thought, man, that's going to be a good game with Valley Catholic possibly. The way that they lost to Potosi, where they were winning the game and they just kind of fooled around, they made some mistakes. It's just not. It's like an inexperienced team that's not used to winning. And that's how the game went. And when Potosi took the lead on the 2-point conversion, and they get an opportunity, they march down the field and have the opportunity to win the game on a field goal. Just got to make the block, you got to do your job and make sure that nobody can get a hand on it. And that's not what happened. So that's a team that's doing some good things. I know they got a good sophomore quarterback at St. Gen. And he's obviously a dual threat kind of kid, and you like guys like that, especially at their level. But I think Valley Catholic and what they're doing and just the culture is just way too much right now. Yes, they're going to win big. I don't think it's going to be close. I think we're going to see a repeat of what we did last year.
I 100% agree. And once again, St. John trying to get their program going in the right direction, from what they were like back in the early 2000s, and they're going to get there. But you have to learn from your mistakes. And I think they're going to take what happened with Potosi, and they're going to learn from that. But unfortunately, I don't know if they're going to be able to learn quick enough against just a loaded Valley Catholic team.
Yeah, you said it right. They're primed to win in the state tournament, but they're primed to win in the state tournament playing in Class 3 and 4. Now they're in 2. So there you go. Here comes Valley. So we'll go ahead and move right on to our next game, because I don't think that one's going to be. I think it's going to be a good hometown matchup. But man, I'll tell you what, Valley Catholic's just that good. But our next game features a clash of large schools as Pattonville takes on host Seckman. Pattonville fell to 4-2 with a loss to Eureka, 34-0, as mentioned before. The 4-2 Pirates are still searching for consistent play at quarterback after losing dual threat junior quarterback Cameron Ellaby to a season-ending ankle injury 2 weeks ago. They will take on an undefeated Seckman team that has been on a roll this year, as we've talked about all year long. The Class 6, 10th-ranked Jaguars defeated Parkway South last week, 49-7, and had another big game from running back Tommy Gibber, and I hope I said that right. Did I say it right, Jim? Yeah, okay. Yep. You're shaking your head a bit. Who tallied 211 yards on the ground with 4 touchdowns and even threw for another one. Seckman won last year's game with Pattonville in a shootout, 50-48. But Jim, I don't see this one being just back and forth in such a big shootout game like that one. Do you?
No. And here's the thing: this is a game that I want to see Seckman really go after somebody, and somebody that's going to push them a little bit. Pattonville has the capability. Unfortunately, they lost one of their just unbelievable offensive weapons, last week to an injury. But Steve Smith still has some great kids on the defensive side of the ball, and they're big up front. So it'll be interesting to see how Seckman's going to go ahead and attack a really good Pattonville defense. I love the matchup this late in the season, but once again, Seckman's got a lot to play for. They're number 1 in the district. You don't want to lose that number 1 slot, because if you do, you're going down south. You're going to Jackson.
Yep.
And honestly, it's those 2 teams in that district. No disrespect to anybody else, but it's those 2 teams in that district. You've got to get this W. You've got to take care of your business, and I think they can. I think this is a really, really good Seckman team. A lot of people are saying they may be a little bit better than last year because they're a little bit more multi-dynamic. It's just not the Cole Rubel show anymore. They've spread things out a little bit, and this is a really well-rounded team. Everybody's chipping in. Everybody's doing their job. I think the Seckman will win. It'll be a close game because Steve Smith will have his kids coached up and ready to go. I just don't know offensively if Pattonville, without LB, can do what they need to do to get the W against Seckman.
Yeah, and I think that's where it really comes down to, because LB was having such a great year. I mean, he's if you look at his Twitter account, he's the self-proclaimed best dual threat quarterback for his class in the state. I like the confidence, man, because when you hate seeing that from a kid who gets hurt and he has to miss most, half the season. I think he'll be fine coming back. I don't know if Pattonville will be able to find that consistent play from that spot. You can obviously see for the last couple of years, they've relied heavily on good quarterback play, because even last year's team, they were able to move the ball through the air, through on the ground with a dual threat quarterback. And then Ellaby going down really hurts. I think Seckman and their ability to run the ball, they like to run the Wildcat. They like to direct snap to the running back. It makes it really tough. They're going to be able to move the ball and control the clock with that team. I look for Seckman to have a big win this week. They might not score as many points, but I think that they will keep Pattonville from scoring a whole lot themselves. So I look for them to win in a turbo clock.
I don't know if it'll be a turbo clock, but I really like Seckman. Once again, without LB, there's a lot of difference now in that Pattonville offense. And, the bottom line is Seckman has a lot to play for. So does Pattonville, but I think There's a lot more on the line for a Seckman team because they want to run the table and get that number 1 seed for district. And I think that's going to be the motivating factor the next 3 weeks for the Jaguars. I like Seckman. I don't know if it'll be a turbo clock, but I think they're going to win in convincing fashion.
I mean, I'm just making that call. I'm just going to go shoot my shot here on that one. But
I know. It was coming eventually.
Yeah. All right. So our final matchup is one that Jim has mentioned several times this year, as the undefeated and top-ranked in Class 4 Lutheran North Crusaders travel across the state to play in Macon, Missouri, and they will take on the 5-1 third-ranked Class 3 Maryville Spoofhounds. I love the mascot. It is so awesome. It's not as good as the Whippets, but it's the Spoofhounds. I love it. Last week, Lutheran North flexed its muscle over MICDS, winning 46-21. Junior dual threat quarterback Dakari Hollis made an impression with his arm in the game for the Crusaders, throwing for 310 yards and 5 touchdowns. Maryville has won 5 straight games, including a win last week against St. Joseph Benton, 42-8. This game will be the third matchup for the Spoofhounds against a ranked opponent this season, losing to Class 3 number 1 Blair Oaks in Week 1, 41-14, and defeating Class 3 7th ranked St. Pius X Kansas City 46-42. As we know, Lutheran North has defeated 3 top 10 ranked teams this season through different classes around the state. So last year, the Crusaders got the best of this matchup, winning 36-29. So Jim, let's get that big take.
The bottom line is, finally, everybody's on the same page with Lutheran North as the number 1 team. I think this team is as good as advertised still. I think this team is going to win a lot of, I think they're the best team in Class 4. And I think this is another opportunity for them to solidify that. On the road, you're going to make in the play, the Spoofhounds are meeting halfway again like they did last year. But I just think, Dakari Hollis is just playing at another level. And he's just been terrific. I love Lutheran North's defense. They fly around the ball. Maryville, this is the first time they're going to see a team that's got a lot of speed. And it'll be interesting to see the matchup, especially out on the edges. But then you got to stop Hollis and his legs, because the kid can run with the football as well.
Yeah,
so it's going to be pick your poison. It's going to be pick your poison for the Spoof Hounds. I like Lutheran North. I think they get it done. And once again, I think that's the next feather in their cap to continue the run to a state championship. And once again, there's a lot of things that have to play out. But my gosh, the way Lutheran North is playing, their resume, they just add one more to it. Lutheran North will win. I think Lutheran North will win convincingly. And for Maryville, I still think they're one of the top teams in Class 3 without any doubt. If they lose, they won't drop a whole bunch in the poll. They'll stay in that 3-4 slot. But I really, really like Lutheran North on the road. Close game, but I just don't think the Spoof Hounds have the speed on the edges to be able to take care of business against some really, really good receivers for Lutheran North.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is going to be able to match that speed, something they haven't seen. And obviously Lutheran North's pretty good when you beat Blair Oaks, and Blair Oaks took Maryville to the woodshed a little bit, so to say.
Mm-hmm.
You know that this is a good team that Maryville's going to be playing against. I look for Lutheran North to win convincingly. I do think that Maryville is going to finish with a good season. I think they're still, like you said, one of the top teams in Class 3, but they're not Lutheran North. And that's just all there is to it. Lutheran North is on another level right now, and I think they are going to win. No doubt about it.
Yeah. I don't think there's any doubt about it. I think this is all Lutheran North. And once again, Kyle Wagner's got this kid focused in. He's got them playing week to week instead of looking ahead or looking behind. They know what their resume is. They don't need to worry about beating Blair Oaks. They've already done it. They've already checked Howe off the list. They've checked MICDS off the list. So now another state-ranked opponent, another line on the resume to make yourselves number one seed in the district, make everybody come through you, and you got to take care of business to get to Faroe. I really like this team.
When you have a good team like that and you put a schedule together like that, you can't look ahead on anybody, because your whole schedule is a look-ahead schedule. So every week you get to look ahead because you're going to turn around and play somebody that's pretty good.
Yep.
And that's what you have to do. That's what you have to do.
Yeah, without a doubt.
So we're going to go ahead and wrap this episode up. Jim, it's been a fun one. I'm sure we're going to have some really good matchups come next week. And, I'm telling you right now, I love it. The air is getting colder, man. I know that means it's getting closer to basketball, but that means we're also getting close to some of the best football this time of the year around the state.
This is a fun time of the year. I mean, and once again, it's going to be a little bit of a nip in the air this weekend, and it's football weather. It really is. And it'll be a lot of fun to see these kids get out there. This is what they've been working for since June and July. It's time for them to show up and show out. And, I can't wait. Next week, I already looked ahead to next week's games. Once again, it's just there's great games every week. But once again, the big theme is now, this time of the year, you've got to win. You're playing for district positioning, and you've got to continue doing what you're doing.
That's right. Stack the wins up. Try to host the games. That's all you can say. Well, again, for Jim, for me, thank you guys for tuning in. We will see you again next week for another episode of On the Move with the Caravan Sports Preview Show. You guys have a great one. This episode of On the Move with the Caravan is brought to you by Off the Rails Media. Life's more fun when you're off the rails.
Are you tired of boring sports talk shows? Then tune in to the Coach's Box. These guys don't just talk sports. They talk about whatever the heck they want to talk about. Watch new episodes of the Coach's Box each week for free on Facebook, YouTube, or the Streamline Sports app.